And now we're getting some action. From the New York Post, at least 2 Republican district attorneys want to prosecute the Bidens, says Rep. James Comer. This is what I'm talking about. If you're a conservative DA, if you're a DA, it's time to start filing these indictments. They took a swing at Donald Trump on some BS charges. They know the charges are BS. The media knows the charges are BS. And now the backfire begins. Oh, this is fascinating. They're losing it completely. Not only now have they started a game that they really don't want to be involved in. I love this one. They're like, should Donald Trump be charged with war crimes? We had Dave Smith talking about this. And he says, yes, because all presidents engage in war crimes, but they're not going to go after Trump on those charges because then Obama, then Bush, then Clinton, then Bush. You get the point. All of them will be subject to the same criminal charges. And Obama worse than most. Don't get me wrong. George W. Bush is there, too. Yeah, but Obama will be getting locked up. And this is them knocking over the dominoes and setting us on a course for disaster. They went after Donald Trump on fake charges. And we know they're fake. Because outside of this story, we have another one that makes me just laugh. Oh, so much. Jon Stewart rips into CNN and MSNBC for hyping Trump indictment. Epic media fail. Well, he said a bit more curse words in his takedown of this. But let me just stress, Jon Stewart's this profanity-laden panic over the failure here is palpable. Jon Stewart's truly lost his mind, in my opinion, because he's desperately trying to cover up for Democrats who have utterly failed. In this bit, he's like, you're the only reason you think this case is underwhelming is because, you hyped it up. The panic, the sheer panic in Jon Stewart's face. I love it. He used to be one of the best. He'd make fun of everybody. He actually praised James O'Keefe before, but the dude has clearly lost it in his old age. You see, the issue with the Donald Trump indictment is that not only has it opened the door for Democrats to now be indicted as well, here starts the game, but in order for the charges against Trump to actually become felonies, there needed to be something there. We had Destiny, the omni-liberal, on the show just this past week. And he said, I'm sure there will be something more in this indictment because there has to be. Well, Destiny, you were right. There has to be something more in this indictment. But surprise to all of us, tain't nothing in there. So what do we get? All of these media outlets are basically saying, I'm underwhelmed. There's nothing here. So Jon Stewart loses it. And he's like, no, this is Trump trying to cover up, pay a porn star so that he could benefit his campaign. But, the statute of limitations was 2 years on this. There's no crime. They don't have anything. All Alvin Bragg did was declare war before being ready to fight it. And I hope the Democrats realize where this goes. We'll see if they actually prosecute the Bidens. I want to see it. They should. I think they should go after Barack Obama. This is the weirdest thing to me. Honestly, how many of you, if you were prosecutors, would immediately file criminal charges against Obama for killing Abdulrahman al-Awlaki? I'm willing to bet around 95% of the people who are listening to this segment would do it in a heartbeat. So why aren't we getting these prosecutors in these jurisdictions to just do it? I don't get it. What is the difference between me, you, and them? Why is it that all of us, and not to mention all of the real diehard Trump supporters, are begging for an indictment on anything, and it doesn't come? Is it because they're cowards? Well, maybe these guys aren't cowards. Let's start here, and then I'll show you what Jon Stewart had to say. But before we get started, my friends, today's episode is brought to you by Cast Brew Coffee. That's right. Go to castbrew.com and pre-order your Cast Brew coffee today. This is our coffee brand. You can get your Rise with Roberto Jr. or Appalachian Nights pre-order. Plus, we do have Colombian and French roast available, and more signature blends are coming soon. But we decided to sponsor ourselves so that, they're not going to, we can't cancel ourselves. We're not going to. So castbrew.com, basically, we're just starting to sell our own products so that we can not have to worry about ads getting pulled or anything like that. Let's read the news. At least 2 local GOP prosecutors are looking at ways to charge President Biden and his family amid Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg's prosecution of Trump. Quote, I had 2 calls yesterday, one from a county attorney in Kentucky and one from a county attorney in Tennessee. They were Republican, obviously. Both states are heavily Republican. They want to know if there are ways they can go after the Bidens now. You don't need to call a rep to ask that question. Just do your job. Alvin Bragg has nothing. There's nothing to go after Trump with. Statute of limitations are gone. No underlying crime. Bye-bye. He did it anyway. If that's the game they want to play, play the game. Guys, please, indict Obama. Please, for the love of all that is holy, indict Obama. The facts of the case in the murder of Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki are known. Hey, you want to play another game? He killed Anwar al-Awlaki, an American citizen, on purpose, without charge or trial. Indict him for that. And if you want to argue the president has profound deference when it comes to military actions, challenge him. Stop being cowardly. Do I have to go to law school, get a law degree, and then run for DA or something so that I can be the one to do this? I'm just so pissed off. I am so absolutely tired of these people doing nothing while they sit here, lie, cheat, and steal endlessly. They want to file dubious charges against Trump. The least you can do is be like, Obama literally killed American citizens. Now, if you got anything to go off, it's that. They are felonies. There is no statute of limitations. So please. Comer is leading a House Republican investigation into Joe Biden's role. Now, we do have news. I think I have the tweet pulled up here. Jim Jordan subpoenas Mark Pomerantz to appear before deposition. Pomerantz led the investigation into Trump's finances before resigning in protest after DA Alvin Bragg his initial reluctance to move forward. So we may actually get something here. I hope so. There are a number of possible legal theories under which President Biden and his relatives could face non-federal criminal charges. After Bragg, a Democrat, blah, 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 we get it, went after Trump. President Biden is already under federal investigation by special counsel Robert Hur for his alleged mishandling of classified documents. Hunter Biden, blah, blah, we get it. Republican legal activists last week told the Post they expect Republican prosecutors to target the Bidens after Bragg. Yeah, okay, we get it. Under what's their argument? You can be sure there are prosecutors across Florida and Texas right now who are looking for a state law hook into the Biden family, said Tom Fitton. And if they're not doing their jobs. Mike Davis, a former chief counsel for nominations on the Senate Judiciary Committee and president of the Article 3 Project, floated legal theories for possible prosecutions. I think our Republican AGs and DAs should get creative. You just need probable cause. The grand jury can indict a ham sandwich. We just saw that in New York. And the Bidens actually committed real crimes. These are real crimes the Bidens committed. There's a smoking gun evidence the Bidens were corruptly and illegally on the Chinese and Ukrainian oligarchs' payrolls. So go for it. Well, I got my fingers crossed. In the meantime, I saw this story from the Daily Beast. And at first I'm trying to understand, right? Jon Stewart rips into CNN and MSNBC for hyping Trump indictment. At first, I'm like, you go, Jon Stewart. This is what I'm talking about. Some sane liberals who are saying, you guys are nuts. There's no crime here. I'm sorry. Jon Stewart went the complete other direction. Jon Stewart's argument is you should be excited. You should be hyping this up more because Trump's crooked. Oh, boy. Jon Stewart, what a pathetic, spineless failure. Here we go. When Jon Stewart surprised the Daily Show fans by popping by Tuesday night after the Trump indictment, he was mostly there to do a silly bit with guest host Roy Wood Jr. that subverted the expectations for him to have an impassioned take in the proceedings. Turns out he was saving it for his own show. On Friday's episode of The Problem with Jon Stewart on Apple TV, the comedian leaned into his strengths and went after the 24-hour cable news networks for its jaded coverage that both hyped up Trump's arraignment and declared the underlying indictment a disappointment. And he wasn't talking about Fox News. Oh, you were disappointed? You were depressed? Here's why. Because you treated this like the final confrontation with Thanos, and then it actually just played out like it was a boring as-ish legal procedure at the very beginning of what will be a long, drawn-out, laborious legal process. No, Jon Stewart, you lying a-hole. I'm not even going to swear. They were saying it was underwhelming because Bragg did not present an underlying crime, and the information presented lacks merit. You see, when we had Destiny on the show, he said, I bet there's something else in here. There has to be. There has to be. And there isn't. There's nothing here. So sure, you want to say that they were overhyping it, fine. But the expectation was that if Bragg was making this move, he would at least have some modicum of a legal theory as to how a misdemeanor beyond its statute of limitations could be extended into 34 felonies. He did not. That's why MSNBC, CNN, and many other liberal commentators were outright like, there's nothing here. So, John, considering you've lost the ability somehow to Google search these things, or considering that you're actually referencing these segments, I know you know what they're really talking about, which says to me the only conclusion is you are a despicable liar. Not surprised. Not surprised. He continued to go after the networks for being let down by the expectations you MFers created, playing clips of commentators like MSNBC's Chris Hayes and CNN contributor Andrew McCabe warning that the case is unimpressive and not a slam dunk. Quote, only our media, those cloistered short attention span, own a spelunking, Stewart said before stopping himself. Defenders of democracy find a president paying hush money to a Playboy model and an adult film star and then cooking the books to help himself win an election underwhelming and boring. Except that is an extreme depiction of what really happened. I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you the facts as we know them. Let's play the game. Jon Stewart's not here to tell you the truth, so I'll do my best. Michael Cohen paid Stormy Daniels, I believe the number was $130,000, to stop her from releasing information on an affair she had with Donald Trump. Now, at the time, Michael Cohen eventually did get in trouble for effectively this, and his lawyers released a letter saying that Donald Trump did not pay him for this. Donald Trump did not instruct him to do this. Michael Cohen did this of his own volition and was not reimbursed for it. However, after they went after Michael Cohen, he later flips and says, actually, Trump did tell me to do it and did reimburse me in installments through legal fees. The only problem there is the only evidence we have is that Michael Cohen claimed it was true. The documents showing that Donald Trump was paying him are actually just legal bills classified as legal fees. So, is it possible that privately Donald Trump said, I want you to pay her off, but you didn't get it from me? Yes. Is it possible that Trump said, I will funnel the money back to you. We'll call it legal bills? Yes, absolutely. They don't have proof of that. It's all speculation. More importantly, whether or not Trump actually did this, the statute of limitations, which dictates how much time you have before you can bring a criminal prosecution, has expired. It was 2 years. It's done. The only way to extend it is if there was an underlying crime Trump was covering up. There is not. Bragg has not introduced any evidence of any other crimes. There's nothing here. I'll tell you what I think happened. I believe that if I was going to make the simplest of explanations based on the facts as we have, I will not speculate as to Donald Trump actually doing anything illegal because there's no evidence of it. In which case, it looks like this. Stormy Daniels begins creating legal problems for Donald Trump. Donald Trump has a lawyer. Trump says, I can't deal with this. Take care of it. A generic statement. Michael Cohen thinks to himself, it's going to be a lot of very annoying work dealing with Stormy Daniels. I know. I'll just pay her off. And then I will bill Donald Trump and he'll just pay me. I believe the most likely scenario, considering his lawyer stated this in a letter, is that Michael Cohen pays off Stormy Daniels to make his job easier. I won't have to think about her. I won't have to file invoices. This all goes away. Trump is satisfied. I'm happy. Easy peasy. Done. That's it. Then, in order to get that money back, he just bills Donald Trump and says, here's some billable hours and legal fees. Trump, being a multi-billionaire, probably with several lawyers, does not look at these invoices. And he probably just went, I just pay the guy. I mentioned this before. I have lawyers. I say, hey, this is what's happening. Can you help? Sometimes it's very simple. All right, we're forming new businesses. We need a new LLC because we have a new business here. Take care of it for me, please. They send me an invoice with a final billable amount. I don't even take care of payment. I'm just the CEO. I got employees here who take care of that stuff. You really think Donald Trump is going over the itemized list of what it's insane. Jon Stewart is lying to you because they're panicked and they're desperate and they're evil. Finally, after briefly castigating Trump for underpaying Stormy Daniels, Stewart shared one more clip of MSNBC anchors discussing why the silence of Mitch McConnell, fall or no fall, speaks volumes. Stewart ended his segment by declaring epic effing media fail. Now, to be fair, that was really funny because there's this ridiculous MSNBC clip where they're like, now I know that Mitch McConnell had a nasty fall, and that may be why he's not addressed this, but fall or no fall, why is his silence important? And Jon Stewart's like, what? The dude fell. And he's like, coma or no coma, why isn't he speaking or at least dilating his pupils? That actually a good bit. But the rest of it, Jon Stewart, I thought he was going to come out and say, it's underwhelming because there's nothing here. We've known about this for 6 years. Going back to 2017, we've known about this. It was resolved. Federal government and local prosecutors said, we can't do anything with this. And Bragg, being a desperate psychopath, said, I'm going to do it anyway. Well, good luck, I guess. Now, look, I've mentioned this last night. In my view, Donald Trump should have called their bluff. Okay. Bragg, this is what happens, okay? Bragg's got these documents, this indictment. Destiny is sitting here and he says there must be something big in them, but we couldn't see what it was. So Bragg slaps on the table and says 34 felonies. Your move. Donald Trump sits there. He thinks for a minute and then he says, I fold. Gets on a plane, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to fly to New York to face down what ultimately turned out to be nothing. Nothing. Now, I suppose the argument for many people is, but they wanted Trump to resist. Donald Trump flies to New York. He wastes his time. That's what they wanted. They know there's no case here. But guess what? Donald Trump's next hearing takes place right before the primaries. It's a game they are playing. Donald Trump could have called their bluff and raised and said, you want me to fly to New York and spend all this money? Okay, let's see how strong your charging documents are. Extradite me. Come to Florida and you pick me up. I'm calling your bluff. And do you know what would have happened? I firmly believe if Donald Trump came out and gave a press conference and said, we've all heard about the indictment from Bragg. It is my understanding that these are false charges. It is malicious prosecution. There is no underlying crime. And on the question of the payment itself, the statute of limitations has long since expired. If they really think they have this, they are going to have to extradite me from Florida. Your move, Bragg. I'll be sitting here waiting for you to get a warrant and come and pick me up because I don't believe you actually have real charges. And then Bragg would have shrugged. The media would have said, there's literally nothing here, as they are saying right now. And it would be very difficult for anyone to justify an extradition of Donald Trump from Florida. They'd be helpless. There'd be nothing they could do. Bragg would probably then just have to dismiss the charges and say, okay, for what? Trump wouldn't go there. Trump's not going to entertain your hearings. Instead, Trump went right there and said, tell me what to do. That to me is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Donald Trump could have just stood up and said, make my day. Ron DeSantis had already said he's not going to get involved in any extraditions. And this also serves another purpose. Donald Trump would put Ron DeSantis in a very, very difficult position. Clearly, DeSantis wants to run. And I think he's great. Does a lot of good things. So we'll see how this plays out. But imagine what would happen if an extradition warrant was served. And Trump could come out and say, listen, I will answer to these charges if they come and extradite me. That's it. If they really do have these charges, then, well, I'll answer for them. They need to come, provide transport, negotiate with Secret Service, and bring me back to New York. I will then go to a hearing and we'll discuss it. Ron DeSantis would then be in a very difficult position when New York says, if they did, I doubt they would, but let's say they do. They go to DeSantis and they say, we want an extradition of Trump. Uh-oh. If Ron DeSantis wants to be president and he allows the extradition of Donald Trump, he loses instantly. It's over. Trump becomes martyred. Trump blames DeSantis and says, you did this. And then if DeSantis doesn't do it, Trump wins. It was the perfect play. Trump, if they tried to extradite and DeSantis said no, Trump wins in every respect. The DA in New York looks weak. The charges are bunk. DeSantis fails. It splits him from everybody else. There was no winning move for Ron DeSantis there. There was one. If DeSantis stood up and said, mark my words, you will not indict Trump. If he got in front, took the strong stance, then when Trump submitted himself to this bunk charge, to these bunk charges, DeSantis could have come out and said, listen, I outright said it would not happen. But if Trump chooses to make it happen, there's nothing I can do about that. There's a game being played. We'll see what happens to the Bidens. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.